Heather was exhausted from too many days on the run and too little sleep. Her back literally to the wall. She suffered one glance upward at the cliffs, stretching toward the sky, to sheer to climb safely. There was, do I want to stay? I'm going to stay in this paragraph. There was room to maneuver from side to side, along the steep, uneven base of the cliffs. I'll say rocky faces, but nowhere really to go. It didn't help that she couldn't see what chased her. Every night for as long as she could remember. Her days and nights were starting to blend. And even though it was not yet full dark, the spirits that, if I already used the word hunted, spirits that hunted her are already making noise. She could not see them, but knew they were close. There was too much darkness still in the world, even if her order of knights had succeeded in defeating the wielders of dark magic and their, let's see if we can spell this correctly, wielders of dark magic and their army of hungry ghouls. Alright, spell ghouls with a G just for old time's sake. In their army of hungry ghouls, there was plenty of dark magic left in the land. And all manner of monstrous things to bring her and her friends to a painful end. Heather held her sword at the ready in shaky hands, even though she had no idea how to stab something that had no body. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move this along. Her head ached. Her muscles tightened and twitched from overuse, and her vision tried its best to blur from too little sleep and the tears of weary sorrow. Still, she was able to spy the first clue of the haunting things coming toward her in the last slanting light of the day. It was in the tall grass. Whatever spirits they were, whether on purpose, whatever spirits they were, whether on purpose or not, the grass laid down in their path in two lines, as if by unseen feet or wagon wheels. Those depressions in the grasses left dark stripes that slowly rose as new lines were pressed in front of those. It wasn't exactly like some invisible being taking steps, but she tracked the progress of multiple things drawing toward where she made her stand. What are you? She called. I demand that you show yourselves instead of hiding like cowards. Heather wasn't sure that antagonizing them was the right move. But if she could coax them into becoming solid, or at the very least something she could see, that would be of some advantage. She would grow to regret this very soon. The light seemed to fall out of the world all at once. The oranges and pinks of the sunset became purples and deep blues unto black. The first stars had not yet shown themselves, at least not on this part of the world. But the shadows owned the land. Between every tree and rock, stretching back into the veiled distance. It was such an abrupt... Hey, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. I'm writing a little short story based in a fantasy adventure world with a little bit of horror in it that I write. So this one's going to be for Patreon. Got one of the female knights in trouble, and hopefully she's going to fight her way out or get rescued, one or the other. That's the plan anyway. All right. It was such an abrupt extinguishing of the sun that she thought maybe she had lost time. It would not be the first time, since these spirits had marked her as their prey. That's when the first of the stalking things revealed itself in a form that did not belong to it. The solid manifestation was still a bit transparent. All right, let's spell manifestation right. The solid manifestation was still a bit transparent, but the surrounding darkness defined it well, as the figure gave off a sickly light of its own. I had to do so much messing around with settings to get stream notifications working. It's a little ridiculous. Oh yeah, I was just talking to Armand about that the other day. He can't seem to get it set up. Alright, and Armand's here. Thank you, Armand. You missed all the best parts of the story, the endless setup. So now we're going to get to the actual fighting, hopefully. Figure gave off a sickly light of its own. It wasn't bright, except in contrast. And it still left many of the details blurry. It was the sort... Alright. Sorry, I'm missing your messages here. Armand says, hey, glad to pop in and see Jay was on or not. Actually getting some writing done myself today, which is good. That is good. I know you have a little trouble sometimes getting back into gear after a convention. I'm of a similar mind, although I came out of MondoCon writing better than I had before. Also, I imagine having all those people in your house kind of disrupts your schedule a little bit, and you have to kind of get yourself back into your groove. Now to write while Jay tells me a story in the background. Very good. Yeah, I don't usually, leading up to conventions, especially as I'm having to pack and get things together and that kind of thing, I can't really do a whole bunch of work because I wear myself out mentally, and then I'm not prepared to like get ready to go and all that. So I typically try to finish up the work I'm trying to do before the convention and then take it back up afterward. The sound of Jay typing and telling a story. Soothing, to be honest, Rick. Inadvertent ASMR. Yeah, so I always end up losing a couple days before the convention because I can't have a big project. Like I can't write several thousand words before packing up to go. So a lot of times it is just finishing up small deadline things and giving myself time to kind of relax and get things together. And sometimes I need a day or two after the conventions, although it's not both ends of those are not as long as they used to be. So sometimes I would get to where days and days before the convention, like my brain would just shut down. I wouldn't be able to do anything, and it would take me more days to kind of gear up. So fortunately, I'm not seeing that as much this year. Now, of course, I took 2 years off of conventions before leading up to now, so maybe I'm still getting back into that groove. Except for writing on Twitch on Wednesday, I haven't done much since Sunday. I know yesterday I didn't do anything. I was really tired. I had cardiac rehab and then was just exhausted when I got back and just canceled off everything. And today I only had a couple small things, and then getting ready for stream. I had some interviews and stuff I needed to do. So like my day had a bunch of those things. So to keep myself from just accomplishing nothing, I pushed things off today. But I actually did do some writing. So even that novel I was working on at MondoCon, I didn't have it on the schedule anymore for today, but I still sat down and did 1,000 words on it. So I guess I got that writing bug back going. So it was a very positive writer's retreat for me, in the sense that it did kind of gear me up to be consistent with my writing again. Oh, by the way, the lawn care people decided to come in right as I was getting ready to stream. They've been kind of quiet, so I kind of hear some things in the background, so maybe they'll make their way back around to this side. Been trying to get them out here for months, but all I really had to do was get back into streaming, and that's what makes them magically appear. All right, so it wasn't bright enough, except in contrast. I'll put a comma there just for comma's sake, and it still left many details blurry. It was the sort of light that felt... No, they're getting geared up. They may be coming over here. If you guys have any questions for the lawn care people, let me know and I'll shot them out the window. It was the sort of light that felt poisonous if you were exposed to it for too long. What bothered her most? What undid her? As the spirits probably hoped. Oh yeah, they're getting close. Alright. What bothered him most, what undid her, as the spirits probably hoped, was that she recognized the figure. Her mother had died horribly in the first days of the invasion of the ghouls. Alright, there's two of these there. First days of the invasion of the ghouls. Her mother had died horribly in the first days of the invasion of the ghouls a very long time ago. Heather feared she might have forgotten her mother's face. But this evil spirit, taking on her image and reaching out her arms to Heather, showed her that she had not forgotten at all. Her father formed in the grasses behind the false image of her mother. They both reached out to her for an embrace. Alongside them, stretching out in both directions in a growing mob, were other deceased family, friends she had lost in the wars, fellow knights who had sacrificed themselves in battle for the preservation of the kingdom of Valahark. They now lined the base of the cliff, all reaching for her, all inviting her to join them in their sickly light of the spirit world. Heather sheathed her sword, but did not move toward them. She did not accept their invitation, as she tried to make her way around. The spirits in their stolen forms moved sideways to keep her from coming down the slope. The act of trying to flank around them while staying out of their dishonest reach drove her slowly up the incline toward the cliff walls instead of away. The spirits began whispering to her. Their voices came harsh and strained, as if from the vocal cords of something trapped and drying out in a grave. They could not imitate the voices of those she had loved. So they invited her to join them in crackling tones full of threat. "Leave me alone," she cried, as the ground grew steeper and more treacherous under her. They kept pace with her and even drew closer. "You are not real. You cannot hurt me. Be gone. I banish you back to the world of the dead and the demons." Heather had no magic about her. Although she had seen plenty used by people on the side of light and darkness. The spirits did not leave. They did not vanish or even flinch at her challenge. They just kept offering their arms to her, and their dry, dead voices hailed her and offered offered her their help in tones that made her skin crawl. You'll not have me. I will never surrender to you. The spirits parted, and another figure, hidden in a mix of light and nighttime shadows, emerged. Heather froze in place, seeing Princess Darn again. Unlike the others, they're getting right outside the office. There must be some terrible need to get rid of something in the woods that surrounds my house. All right, we'll see if we can still be heard over all this. Power through, I guess. I might need to put something on the headphones so that I can actually concentrate, but we'll see how that goes. Unlike the others in this group of imitating haunts, as far as she knew, Darn was still alive. Anything was possible, though, among the living and the dead. Heather, the image of Darn, spoke her name clearer than the other spirits around. I will not accept false things as true. Heather said in a weak voice, lacking much of her usual conviction. Alright, I think I'm getting close to the end of this, but the way I'm writing it now kind of avoids a confrontation, so I don't know if that's the right way to go with this story, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it on the path that I'm on, and then in the editing phases, I'm going to see if I need to punch it up or add something to it. Darn smiled, and it looked all the world like her. The creator of Heather's Order of Knights. You never should. Darn lifted her fingers. Lifted her arms at her sides, and the other spirits recoiled around her. She extended her hands and her fingers. A swirl white and purple light bled out from the tips and started to snake around the bodies of the other dissolving forms. There was a hint of strained cries. Then the spirits disappeared from sight, and the night didn't seem quite as dark as it had before. Heather looked up to see the stars were there after all, in all their usual places. And she looked down the slope. Darn was still there in her armor, waiting. I don't know what's real anymore. We thought we had lost you, Darn said. We've been searching. And trying to follow your trail. We didn't know what had set upon you, but we could tell it was not natural. Do you know what those creatures were? Heather shook her head. I'm not even sure you are real. Darn laughed a little, but then stopped when she realized... Ooh, can you hear the leaf blowers moving up? Apparently they're trying to blow out all the leaves out of the woods. Darn laughed a little, but then stopped when she realized Heather had not joined her. Darn reached out, but Heather backed up the slope a little. The princess lowered her arms and said, "How might I prove myself? I don't know. This puts us in quite a position. If I am who I say I am, and I came to save you, morning, Heather said. What's that mean? If you are still here when morning dawns, I'll know you are real. Darn looked about and sat down on a rock. What are you doing? Heather asked. I'm your friend. I'm here to help, and I will wait all the hours until morning, if that's what it takes. Heather almost ran to her friend right then and there. That was the sort of person she knew Darn to be. But she had to be sure. So Heather sat down as well, with the distance between them on the slope. It was more of a controlled collapse than truly sitting down. Going to sleep was quite tempting. Alright, I'm going to make this a new paragraph. We're almost at the end here. Going to sleep was quite tempting. It would be a deep sleep, too. But she had to be sure. After surviving this long, she couldn't give up now. Is there anything I can give you? Darn asked. Heather shook her head and made her skull ache in the process. Just be here once morning dawns. Please still be here. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. I will be. I will. Heather nearly dozed twice. And the new day was still much further away than the one that had just passed. Heather took a deep breath and said, "How did you use magic? I have never seen that from you before." Darn sighed. "I come by it naturally. As you may know, I've been trying to avoid it. It's a very long story." We have until morning. That is true. But it is a story I'd rather tell in the light. Maybe we can discuss more pleasant things now. I have not had many pleasant things happen lately. Darn nodded and looked away. Me either. So they sat there in silence, waiting for the morning light. Okay, let me fix this. Waiting for the morning light to prove their friendship.